It's really unfortunate for me to listen to this album with Maddie being the themes. Grow the hell up, grow up, get a job. Why do you care? The album would be better if the first two tracks weren't there. So that's Tortured Poets and Fortnite. The first half is trash, and she's trying to be too poetic, and it's annoying AF. Some of the songs are about the turkey, and the new Swiftie rat obsession is weird. A lot of the choices around and in this album are cash grabs. 31 songs is not too many. Taylor Swift doesn't have to please anyone anymore. The anthology only needed to be 6 songs max. Well, yes, and those 6 songs were, well, bet you thought you'd seen the last of me. Here I am, glutton for punishment, back again for another round of unpopular opinions. The series where I react to the unpopular opinions that you send me, and this time we're talking about the Tortured Poets department. You'll remember from my last video, we talked a lot about, Tortured Poets having mixed reviews, the impact of its legacy, and we're going to be having more of those conversations today. Again, I want to stress, I am a Tortured Poets enjoyer, so a lot of these unpopular opinions truly rang as unpopular to me. I was gagged by what you guys were saying, but this is a place of having critical, thoughtful, analytical conversations, so that's what we're going to do today. And if you're new here, my name is Zach. I'm the Swiftologist. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture, and you should subscribe, because if you're not subscribed, then you're doing a great disservice to the Swiftologist Nation and to the Taylor Nation. So I think you should remedy that right now. And if you also like these unfiltered, kind of analytical, long-winded conversations about Taylor Swift, her legacy, her music, you have to check out my podcast, Evolution of a Snake. You can find it on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also get us on Patreon for exclusive bonus content every single week. Before we get into your unpopular Taylor Swift Tortured Poets department opinions, I have to say a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, Glasses USA, who created the Gorgina frames that I'm currently modeling for you today. What do you think of this new style that I'm trying? I usually go for something that is like very chunky and heavy, and I usually like a tortoise shell, but I went for a pair from the Von Miller X Glasses USA collaboration. I think this is the Eagle design in the colorway brown clear, and I really like them. I was scared I was gonna look a little Ted Bundy, but I think it's actually the right amount of like retro. So if you didn't already know, Glasses USA is one of the biggest eyewear retailers in the USA, offering thousands of eyeglasses and sunglasses from brands like Ray-Ban, Gucci, Oakley, and many more, as well as contact lenses. And what's best about GlassesUSA.com is that their glasses start at only $39, which are up to 70% off retail prices, and we love a bargain. I am an avid online shopper, but I am also a known ADHD haver, so trying out all these different like models, sizes of literally anything that I'm shopping for online can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially when there are so many options around, and glasses I find are especially difficult to shop for online because it's kind of hard to picture yourself wearing them. Even when you get the measurements and stuff, like it just becomes a little bit of a hassle. And what I loved about shopping for my new glasses at GlassesUSA.com when they reached out to collaborate is that they offer some amazing tools to help you find your perfect pair. And one of these tools that I thought was extremely bellissimo was the AR virtual try-on feature. I used this to kind of virtually try on all the frames that I was looking at for this video, and they helped me land on this gorgeous Eagle model by Von Miller. It's also worth it to note that shopping online at GlassesUSA.com is a risk-free shopping experience with free shipping and returns and a 100% money-back guarantee within 14 days. As I mentioned, I'm totally obsessed with this style, but also what I love about this pair of frames specifically is that I opted for a blue light blocking lens. Glasses USA has a collection of advanced blue light blocking lenses to protect your eyes at home, at work, or outdoors. And using blue light glasses during screen time really helps reduce eye strain and stress on your eyes, makes you feel a little bit less tired, gives you less headaches, and I've definitely noticed at least some of that so far while using these glasses and testing them for over a month. And for all of my gorgeous ologists at home, GlassesUSA.com is offering exclusive discounts available only for 24 hours. You're gonna have to click the link in my bio to see what they're offering. And once again, thank you so much to Glasses USA for sponsoring this video. And we're very excited to be touring the United States next year, so make sure to follow us on our socials to stay updated, and let's just get straight into the mess, shall we? 31 songs is not too many. Taylor Swift doesn't have to please anyone anymore. I think where a lot of people are perhaps missing the mark when it comes to talking about, there being a deluge of information and of content coming from Taylor Swift at this very specific moment in time is that a lot of us are not saying that we don't want to have those songs, the side B of the anthology, right? It's not about not having that. It's more about how is releasing 15 more songs that really don't have very much to do with the original standard edition of the record. What does that do to the general public's impression of the record? And thus, how does it impact Taylor's legacy in the long run. Because these songs that were, the additions to the Tortured Poets department didn't need to come out 2 hours after the record for us to understand and enjoy what we received the first time around. And I think that a criticism that was inevitably going to come about the standard edition of this record, regardless, was that it was convoluted and that it was very detail oriented, shall we say, that it was lore heavy, that it was difficult to access for the casual listener. And I think that adding 15 more songs on top of that really exhausted the audience's appetite for new Taylor content in that specific moment itself. So should Taylor have written those songs? Yes, of course, she should always fulfill her artistic wishes and her integrity. But I think that, when you're trying to manage what is a potential backlash of Taylor fatigue coming in the future, perhaps you don't want to barrage people with information. And I'm not even saying that she should have kept all of the anthology tracks away from this project entirely. I'm wondering if a later release could have helped or mitigated this issue somewhat. But I definitely do think that the standard edition of Tortured Poets is really, really good. And I think that even, I, in my deluge of information that I received on that day, was not able to fully appreciate Tortured Poets until a little bit later. And that's a good and a bad thing, because I think that we too often demand albums to sink in on first listen, especially with this binge streaming culture that we have now. But there is something to be said about letting an album marinate for a while. And I guess the difficulty of letting a 31 song album marinate for a while is that you will realize that when there are 31 potentials for a hit or a miss, there are going to be a few more obvious misses than there would be on a 16 track run, right? And I think that editing and being selective and really thinking about what songs indicate the strength of a project is something that any artist of any, genre or caliber can start doing a little bit more. And we do kind of see a little bit of a return to that with shorter albums from the likes of Billie Eilish and Ariana Grande. So I would be curious to see Taylor really whittle down for the sake of creating something truly, truly excellent and iconic. Last time we really did that was on 1989, and it did exactly what it intended to do. The album would be better if the first 2 tracks weren't there. So that's Tortured Poets and Fortnight. Now, Fortnight is a bit of a complicated one because it is kind of about nothing. The I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic line literally makes no sense. You can make up whatever interpretation of it you would like to have. You can interpret it, however, but the meaning of it in the context of the song, there isn't one. It doesn't have any place. It doesn't make any sense. It's not picked up on later on the record or within the song itself. Till nobody noticed. Well, then what was the aesthetic? Why wasn't anybody noticing it? There are several moments throughout that song where I'm kind of like, you just wanted to say that. You just wanted to say, I love you, it's ruining my life. Now, that doesn't prevent me from enjoying Fortnite. I think that it's a fun, easy listen. It's kind of like Antihero to me, where I don't know what I want to listen to, but Daddy, I love him is a commitment. I need to sit there and really get in my feelings. So I hit play on Fortnite. That's why it's currently my top streamed song from Tortured Poets at the moment. But I also had this feeling with Antihero too. It's just kind of easy to put on. Do I think that it's an iconic Taylor Swift song? No. Do I think that it was a good single choice? Yes and no. In terms of Tortured Poets being taken off the album entirely, I don't really agree with that, because I do think that there is a gorgeous melody and hook in there, and it just needed a little bit of editing. I still think we need to have the title track there if the title of the album is going to remain as the Tortured Poets department, because it literally makes no sense without that. So it's kind of a necessity, but I see what you're saying, in that those 2 songs opening up the record do not give you the best impression of what is about to come. But I like to be surprised. I like to stay tuned. Florida is the biggest banger on the album. Okay, if the album was literally just all of the anthology songs and Florida tacked on at the end, sure. Florida is a banger in the sense that it bangs, the production bangs like pots and pans over your head when you're trying to sleep. I didn't get no sleep because of y'all. Florida, that literally is the vibe. So if that's what you mean in that sense, then I agree with you, dear. But biggest banger on the album when we have I Can Do It With a Broken Heart? I mean, did you turn your ears off? Do we need to go to the doctor, get them checked? You're not hearing what the rest of the people are hearing. The first half is trash, and she's trying to be too poetic, and it's annoying AF. The way that this opinion was submitted to me made it seem like this person has not graduated from a high school English course yet. So I'm not going to be taking notes from them about what trying too hard to be poetic sounds like, because I don't think they would know what poetic sounded like if it bit them in the ass. But I want to explore the first half comment. Let me look at the first half. So the first half, I guess, of the standard edition ends with Florida. So you're saying that, but Daddy, I love him, fresh out the slammer, so long London, down bad, boy in the breaks his favorite toys, are trying too hard to be be poetic. If you're looking for songs that aren't trying too hard to be poetic, you simply must go to the anthology. And you also simply must take a look at, I guess, LOML and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. I think those are both excellent songs, by the way, but they are certainly intended to be poetic sounding songs. The word choices, the amount of language included. Songs like But Daddy I Love Him and Fresh Out the Slammer are not trying to be poetic, they just are. But Daddy I Love Him is ridiculous. It's like Enchanted, and if you knew that, then you wouldn't be saying what you're saying. I also don't think that Fortnite is really trying to be poetic. I don't get this comment. I really don't get this comment at all. Taylor doesn't have to try to be poetic. She just kind of is by the very nature of her writing. So flop. Go back to school. I'm Gonna Get You Back deserves more recognition. Well, yes. Where are my sexy, crazy Scorpios? Where are you? Because I need you to be out here in the trenches with me defending this song. Does it fit with everything else on the record? I don't know. Is it to me, it's like a Reputation song. I love Dress. Dress is one of my top 3 favorite Taylor Swift songs, and I'm Gonna Get You Back for a number of reasons really reminds me of Dress. So I am very into it because of that. But I think that in general, perhaps it doesn't necessarily have a place on the standard edition, that's for sure. It does kind of talk about that like very volatile swinging back and forth between I love you, I hate you that we do see on the rest of the record. I love you, it is in fact ruining my life. But, you know, I need more people to be up in arms about I'm Gonna Get You Back. The falsetto in the chorus, that's something I've noticed that people don't like when Taylor uses her falsetto entirely. But some of her sexiest, most like adorable songs, I think he knows, Dress, I'm Gonna Get You Back, have choruses that are almost entirely falsetto. So get into it. Get into it, losers. We're going to get him back. Some of the songs are about the turkey, and the new Swiftie rat obsession is weird. Okay, I mean, this is just something that is plaguing the Taylor Nation at large, is this militant insistence on, I am right about who these songs are about. And it's like, part of the fun of being a Swiftie, yes, has always been to like guess who the songs are about and to have your own interpretations. But I think that people are taking it like so extreme. It's like, these are people you don't know, first of all. You don't know Taylor Swift. Second of all, you don't know the people that she's talking about. Third of all, it's fun. This is supposed to be a kiki. And whenever I share that I think a song is about someone that maybe someone else doesn't agree with, I get literally sent hate mail in my comment section. And I just don't understand that. One of the big like gotchas that my detractors were trying to get me for when I heard Tortured Poets was that, wow, this album is all about the rat. It has nothing to do with the turkey, which means that he was perfect and you were wrong. And don't you feel so mean for bullying him? First of all, no, never. I'm not the Joe Alwinologist. I've said that so many times. Heirloom turkey slander will live on forever. And second of all, she refers to their relationship as jail, as the hospital, as something that was making her massively depressed, as a sinking ship. She is at several moments slandering the relationship. Is there anything more insulting than basically being told you're too boring to write about fully? Or that you were so boring and it was so hellish to be with you that I had to go into alternate dimensions and dream of ways and paths that I had not taken from my youth, years before I even met you because I was so bored by your tedium? I mean, come on, girls. Come on. So Long London, first of all, is a cook. Fresh Out the Slammer is also a cook. Handcuffed to the way he was feeling. For just 1 hour of sunshine. She basically said their entire 7-year relationship really wasn't worth it, and that it was pretty much only 1 hour of sunshine that she enjoyed in that entire time. Does that sound like a compliment to you? Does that sound like you're off the hook? No. Not to me, not to anyone that listens. And also, like, Maddie and Joe on this record particularly are very entwined as muses because there was clearly overlap. And the context of Taylor getting with Maddie is that she was so distressed and depressed and bored in her relationship with Joe. Like, I truly don't think that this interlude would have even happened were she not escaping something. Fresh Out the Slammer is a perfect example of that. So I'm right, you're wrong, as usual. Period. A lot of the choices around and in this album are cash grabs. I would be interested to know what you mean by in this album. The only like cash grab in the album I can think of is releasing the second side of the album in order to, you know, really gain the charts as much as you possibly could and break all the streaming records. That to me was the intention of releasing them so quickly and in succession. So I can understand what you mean. I mean, everything about releasing an album by any artist as a pop star is a cash grab. Like, they're signed to major labels who seek to profit as much as they can from their audiences. And like, pop stars create products that they sell and we buy. That's kind of the nature of the industry. And show me a benevolent pop star. Show me a pop star that's not trying to sell you something. Some of them are trying to sell you blush. Some of them are trying to sell you shoes. Some of them are trying to sell you music. And it's up to you what you want to buy. But I do agree, like, of course, every Taylor Swift album, I mean, this is just a boring criticism because it's been said so many times. Like, Taylor is about the bag. She is about the money. She's about the cold, hard Benjamin Franklins. And I think, actually, in terms of all all her album rollouts as of late, this one struck me as pretty minimalist. Like the merch accompaniment to this, I feel like she did take some notes from people really, really complaining and me making noise about the wastefulness of the incessant product drops. I think Midnight's was the most heinous example of this. And to me, the Tortured Poets department collection has not really been restocked, and it has been a lot more like pared down and considered. So obviously there are cash grabs, but I would not say that this record is the most egregious example of that. In fact, I'd say it's kind of heading in a more healthy direction. I don't know, TBD. It's really unfortunate for me to listen to this album with Maddie being the themes. Grow the hell up, grow up, get a job. Why do you care? It baffles me that people care this much about who Taylor Swift is dating, and it's very reductive to reduce her work to who it is about. Whether you're doing that in a positive or a negative way, I view that negatively. So I say the same to the Tavisers, who are completely and totally obsessed with Tavis, much beyond being obsessed with Taylor Swift as an artist. Taylor Swift as an artist is like secondary to their obsession with inserting themselves into her life and having a big football boyfriend and being Princess Diana, most famous person in the world. It's giving weird. It really is giving weird. So everyone is giving too tied up in her personal life, and people often confuse me for being tied up in her personal life, but I care about the songs. I care about the way that the characters and the muses come across in the page and what that reveals to us about who Taylor Swift is as an artist. That is where the beginning and the end of my investment in her personal relationships kind of starts and stops. A lot of people are kind of losing the plot. You could never find me not enjoying a Taylor Swift song because it's about someone that I don't like or don't think is a good person. Do you think that I will never listen to Dear John because I think that Dear John is an idiot? Do you think that I'm not going to listen to But Daddy, I Love Him, my favorite song on Tortured Poets, because it's probably about the rat? No, because I'm an adult, I'm a grown up, and you should try and be one as well, because this is a boring way to live your life, being upset and offended by someone else's relationships. Doesn't that seem weird when you put it like that? It does. I hope that you get well soon. Jack Antonoff keeps preventing her from evolving. Wrong. He does not prevent her from evolving. Taylor Swift prevents herself from evolving. This is a byproduct of everybody not being able to deliver a criticism of Taylor Swift and instead needing to peripherally attack the people around her, when really who you're mad at is Taylor Swift. For example, when she was dating Maddie Healy, it was all Maddie's terrible, he's under his spell, and everybody wants them to be together for XYZ reason, sidelining Taylor Swift and her agency throughout the process, when we know she was obsessed with him. He was the love of her life for a moment in time. He was, before he was the smallest man who ever lived, he was a muse. And I say that to say that blaming other people for Taylor Swift's shortcomings is something that Swifties love to do, as it is a byproduct of them being completely unable to tolerate any sort of criticism about her whatsoever. So the only person that is responsible for Taylor Swift's sound not evolving is Taylor Swift. She is the most powerful person in the music industry. She holds all the cards. She is completely free, willing, and able to work with pretty much, anyone that she wants to in the music industry. She could work with the best of the best. She could pick the most obscure person that no one knows about and elevate them, just like she kind of did with Jack. She could branch out tomorrow if she wanted to. That has nothing to do with Jack. From a producer's perspective, think about it. You have a good working relationship with your best friend, and she's coming to you and saying, will you please work with me on all of these hugely successful songs that we're making lots of money on? Why would Jack say, oh, you know what? Actually, you need to evolve. So I'll just say, no, I won't produce. Girl, Taylor Swift has defined it within herself to go and explore other options to evolve her sound. It has nothing to do with Jack. Jack is doing his job. He was hired to do the production. Do I agree sometimes that it feels a little one note? Do we need to move on? Yeah, but we don't need to apply that pressure on Jack. He's not preventing her from moving on. Taylor Swift is not taking risks, and that's on her. It is not a track 5, and Swifties who are saying that are delusional. I haven't been seeing Swifties saying that, I guess because I'm not on Twitter anymore. I'm kind of not subject to the most insane stuff. But I mean, sure, it could be a track 5, I guess. I mean, if you're going by the gut-wrenching emotional song, sure. I think that How Did It End is a little forced. It's a little much. I wouldn't say that it was the most stylistic track 5, because there is a certain art to the track 5. It can't be forced. It has to feel very natural and authentic. How Did It End feels like a very deliberate, we're doing a relationship autopsy. That's how the song starts. And it also is a little bit too obscure and vague in its imagery to really be a true track 5, because a true track 5 spills tea that is, apparent to you immediately upon first listen. With that being said, But Daddy, I Love Him is what I selected to be a track 5 for this record, and I stand by that. I don't want to explain it currently. You can watch my track list reshuffle to hear me explain that. But the most obvious track 5 on this record is The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. Thank you. That's it. It's at once a takedown and also a crying song. LML is not a takedown. It's really just a crying song. So The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, the way that she is Dear John's older sister. I know that. Tortured Poets is getting the hate that Midnight's should have gotten. Okay, first of all, hate. Again, nobody knows how to use the word hate. Criticism. Tortured Poets is getting criticism. Midnight's did not get any criticism whatsoever, which was crazy to me. The response to Midnight's, and pretty much everything up until 1989 Taylor's version, I would say, which also deserved criticism but didn't get it because everyone was too afraid. What a difference 6 months can make. The response that Midnight should have gotten was that this is not that interesting and we need to be doing something else, which is, I think, what some people have said about Tortured Poets. So I can kind of see your train of logic if that's what you're following there. Criticisms of Tortured Poets, I think, are pretty valid for, coming from people that are not diehard Swifties in the trenches with the rest of us every single day. And Taylor's a big girl. She can handle it. Midnight's for sure was a missed opportunity to deliver her some criticism that maybe could have made Tortured Poets more sonically interesting. I think that critics were very scared to deliver any sort of clear-eyed assessment of Midnight's other than it's great because the Eras tour was about to start and there was this like re-reckoning with the re-recordings and all of this. It was really the beginning of this new second wind of an Imperial phase for Taylor. So I think people were scared to comment. I'm wondering what the tipping point was. Like, where did it start to become okay to criticize her again? I think it really just was Tortured Poets, and people did shoot their shot. But these things correct themselves eventually. I think Reputation got mixed to slightly negative reviews when it came out, and it has definitely been reappraised as something better than that in hindsight. With that being said, I don't think that Tortured Poets is her best album ever created of all time. So did it deserve like totally glowing reviews and like over the top praise? In my opinion, no. But definitely Midnight's deserved a lot more of a critical analysis than it got. But that's not to say that Tortured Poets didn't deserve it too. The anthology only needed to be 6 songs max. Well, yes. And those 6 songs were I'm Gonna Get You Back, The Black Dog, I Hate It Here, The Albatross, How Did It End, and I Look in People's Windows. And everything else, goodbye. And I don't care what you have to say about it. They're gone. Goodbye. I don't like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. I think she has better bops. I mean, there's always a better bop, right? Like, there's always a better bop that you like more. I think that it's going to be very tough for Taylor to surpass any of the stone cold hits of 1989. Like, those songs really, truly were just in different areas. The closest she's come to, like, the perfection of style, Blank Space, Shake It Off, these, like, mammoth hits was Cruel Summer, which is one of the best songs of all time, and Swifties just suddenly turned on it because it's popular. It wasn't for years. And if you were actually a Swiftie that had been around for more than 5 minutes, you would know that, but you're not, so you don't. I think that I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is a good bop. This album is not really about bops and bangers, so this is kind of the closest thing we have to that. I love I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. I think that it's super fun. It's nothing new, I'll give you that. It's not reinventing the wheel. She definitely does have better bops, but that doesn't make this bad. I still enjoy it. It's still like one of my top 3 favorite songs on the record. Tortured Poets is chaotic and doesn't have any number 1 hits. Well, that's just factually wrong because Fortnite is a number 1 hit and like 14 songs charted in the top 15. So you can't really say it doesn't have any hits when even some of the album tracks on this album are bigger hits than first singles from other pop girls, It's hard to say that there are no hits when the album overall is a hit. But I think that Taylor is for sure leaning more heavily into being an albums artist, which is a turn that she has definitely taken post-Lover, which is where she realized that being a singles artist is not for her and is kind of embarrassing and is a bit of a losing game. Taylor has never really been the like number 1 chart topper hit song specifically. She has them, but I wouldn't say that it's her number 1 forte. There are other big pop acts that have many more number 1 hits than she does. What she does have are hit albums and worlds that are built within those albums that people exist within and people resonate with. And I think that it's much more impressive to move culture with an album than it is to move culture with a song. What's going to have more of a lasting impact on the world? An album rather than a song. So sure, it doesn't have any number 1 hits other than Fortnite, which you are factually incorrect about. Fine. Try and Come For My Job at the end of I Can Do It With a Broken Heart is insecure, petty, and ruins the song. Girl, sometimes I think that you guys just say stuff to say stuff. Like you say stuff to be haters, and that's coming from me, who's always accused of being a hater. So my interpretation of her saying Try and Come For My Job at the end of that song is I really look at I Can Do It With a Broken Heart and The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived together was rusting my sparkling summer your goal. Was it? Taylor, when she, started the Maddie Healy interlude, was in the middle of what was supposed to be the apex of her career, the biggest she had ever been, the most successful concert tour of all time, unfolding in real time before our eyes. And in comes this wrecking ball to disrupt her emotional health and basically nearly stop her in the process. She mentioned that she wasn't able to get out of bed for days when this was happening to her. And she summons the strength to go on, and she describes that in I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. And at the end of the day, what she means by don't try and but what she means by try and come for my job is like, you know what? You were so awful to me for no reason, and that very nearly knocked me off my feet at a very important time for me in my sparkling summer. And that's not going to happen because I'm a professional. And I love that about Taylor Swift. She's a diva. And I guess if you're anti-diva, if you don't believe in diva rights in this world, then perhaps you would think that line was petty. But I'm pro-diva on this channel. So the pro-divas are in favor of the lyric. Stop debating whether it's Joe or Maddie. Just enjoy the songs. It's like I half agree and I half disagree. First of all, the entire experience of being a Taylor Swift fan has been dictated by Taylor Swift, as figure out who these songs are about and then gossip about it and spread the word of the songs and use it as a promotional tool to make my music go further and make people who maybe wouldn't care about my music before discover it and feel invested in it. That's the whole purpose of that strategy. It is a strategy and a groundwork laid by Taylor Swift herself. So to reject it is to kind of be like, well, I'm just going to ignore the intentions of the artist. So you can't say that you don't care at all. Like, there is an element of guessing to the fan culture that is very essential to the existence of a Taylor Swift album and the emergence of a Taylor Swift album cycle. However, as I said earlier, there is a militance in how people are talking about it now that I really don't enjoy. So I think I land somewhere between those two things. The manuscript has the most boring productions I've ever heard. Lyrics are good, but man, it's sleepy. I couldn't relate to that more. I love the idea of the manuscript. I love the idea of Taylor Swift at the end of this record sitting there looking back at, very urgent hurts and realizing that her heart has healed. And part of that healing process has been that her hurts have gone on to become other people's salvation and story. And I love that idea, but the production of this song is so goddamn boring and sleepy. And this is where I really start to go, we need to come up with something else other than Aaron Dessner. I'm ready to kick Aaron Dessner out of the club before Jack Antonoff, because the stuff that he does with Taylor is so one-dimensional. And this song has nothing going for it other than the lyrics. And unfortunately, it's a song, not a poem. So there needs to be something interesting to listen to. And that this is a formless, structureless song. And I think Aaron creates that way a lot, and I don't always like that. I don't understand the point of a double album if you're going to consider TTPD and Anthology the same. Has Taylor expressed that she views this as a double album? I don't know that I've seen her use those specific words. She collects them all together under the Anthology. Like the part 2 of the record doesn't come out on its own on Spotify. It's attached to the main edition of the record. To my understanding, it was never billed as a double album, but I think, the only true example of a double album in Taylor's discography is Folklore and Evermore. And you know why that works? Because there was a sufficient distance between their release, and Evermore built on what happened on Folklore and created its own thing outside of it, which the Anthology does not do for Tortured Poets. So I do agree that if it is intended to be a double album, failed. So high school is super overrated. Well, you know why that is. The Tavis pilled among us don't want to let anyone else have a good time. They want to scream and shout about Tavis all day long, and this is all they have. And you know what? Unfortunately, if you're a Tavis stan and you're also a Taylor Swift fan, you should really be concerned about the quality of work that's going to come out about Travis, because the harbinger of things to come being so high school is really not promising. That's not promising from a sonic perspective. From an I'm delusional and I'm obsessed with Travis and Taylor and I want to be them, sure. For you, I'm sure it's incredible. For normal people who consume music, it's a good song. It's a fine song. It's not an excellent indicator of what's to come. Very much overrated, I agree. The music doesn't really fit the theme and premise of the album. This is something that I have been mulling over a lot as we've digested the one visual that we have for this record. I feel like the visual world building is something that Taylor is actually getting worse at as time goes on, because like the Midnight's kind of sonic landscape did not reflect that like 70s indie singer-songwriter moody moment. Also didn't really reflect like the premise of being up at night and mulling over thoughts over and over. Only a couple of songs really fit that bill. With Tortured Poets, I think I would have just called it Tortured Poets. I wouldn't have done The Department. I would have just done that and kind of been done with it there. I think that would have made it a little bit more clear, because the Department thing is where it becomes confusing. The visuals that came out before kind of indicated like the manila envelopes. There was like an academia element to it, but then she was talking about evidence. So it seems like there might be some like old timey police station vibes going on here. And then on tour, she has like a circus theme and a spaceship. It's a very incoherent visual world. And that's also very abundant in the Fortnite music video. I would love for there to be a couple more music videos to clarify what the aesthetic of this album is. And I think a good test of like, does it have a clear aesthetic is when you're going to the Eras tour and you want to dress up as Tortured Poets, like, what are you wearing? That's a good question, right? It's not immediately clear. Like with Lover, it's like, okay, the pink furry jacket and the tattoo on my back with the like crop top thing, or the Wango Tango outfit. I mean, there's so many. You can go on and on for each of these eras. Even for like Folklore and Evermore, there's a cardigan. And when it comes to Midnights and Tortured Poets, you're a bit like, well, it could be this, it could be that, but it takes a little bit of explaining, or it takes a little bit of like really obvious messaging for you to get what I'm trying to do here. So I do agree with you actually that the music actually also doesn't reflect, I suppose, the theming and the visual imagery of the album. I think I thought it was going to be something a lot more live instrument heavy, a lot more singer-songwriter-y, and it was kind of more in line with what we already know about Taylor as an artist. And yeah, there's a bit of a disconnect between the way that it was promoted and what it actually ended up being, but I'm not that mad about it because I like the music regardless. If the music was bad, then perhaps I would be irritated that the themes and the vibes didn't match, but it's kind of the opposite reaction of Midnights. For Midnights, I was super excited for the visuals and then disappointed by the songs, whereas for Tortured Poets, I was kind of like, what is going on with these visuals? And then I was gagged by the songs. So I'm pleased. The lyricism on Folklore is actually more poetic. I couldn't agree more. Folklore and Evermore are her truest singer-songwriter songs, and maybe it's also because she was not dealing with the pressure of creating some like pop hit as well, because there is that current running through Tortured Poets that it has to be a big moment, a big return to form. It has to be better than Midnights. There was a different set of expectations going into creating Tortured Poets, and the subject matter was totally different too. She was actively working through an emotional issue in real time, whereas on Folklore and Evermore it was wistful, it was in hindsight. She had a lot of like space and time to think about it. It was during the pandemic, like there was really nothing else going on. The songs themselves are spacious. She has more time to figure out what she wants to do. With Tortured Poets, like she was writing this album in the middle of being the busiest girl on earth, being Princess Diana. Like she had to find the time to accomplish all of this in very difficult circumstances and constraints, while also dealing with the like urgency of a fresh heartbreak. So I think that might be where it comes across as clunky or confused sometimes. I think with Folklore and Evermore, she just had all the time in the world to sit there and really fine tune those songs and think about what kind of vibe, image, and dream she was curating here, because the whole point of it was that she was using her words to build fictional worlds. And with Tortured Poets, she gets to lean back more into the shock jock of that autobiographical, confessional intimacy, which is something completely different from what she was doing on Folklore and Evermore. So it's like, when we're just looking at the lyricism side by side, yes, I think that Folklore and Evermore are more poetic. But when we're talking about the true spirit of being a tortured poet, that comes across more clearly on this record. How does Taylor continue to position herself as recently being wronged by society when she's a billionaire? I mean, you can still be wronged and be a billionaire. Being a billionaire doesn't preclude you from being a human being or having human emotions. It is bad to be a billionaire, don't get me wrong, and you have it so much easier than everyone else in the world. But being a billionaire doesn't protect you from getting ghosted. Clearly, being a billionaire doesn't stop you from having your work stolen out from underneath you. There is like a line to walk between rightfully criticizing Taylor Swift for being a billionaire and also recognizing her humanity. And if you don't want to do that, I ask, why be a Swiftie? If you don't want to look at her as a person, then what's the point? You know, just go somewhere else, I guess. But Taylor has always positioned herself as the underdog, and it is a narrative that has been created by her, but I also think she genuinely feels like the underdog in many situations, which is a psychological thing that she has to work out. That's none of my business. I don't think Maddie thought about her at all in the past 10 years. Wrong, factually incorrect. I'm doing my Maddie Healy timeline, and let me tell you, he was bringing her up in the press all the time while she said nothing. Literally said nothing. After their initial brief flirtation period, she said pretty much almost nothing until he started working with Jack again. And that was like a good 6-7 years of him talking in interviews at various times about her. So you're wrong. Do your research, dear. All right, I think I have to stop or else my head's gonna explode. Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe to my channel to see more. I will talk to you soon. Goodbye, Swifties.